5031. The expert interviewed Norodom Sihanu and Ieng Sari in 1983 and 85 respectively. In those interviews, there were written notes by the expert, and the co-prosecutor therefore requests the trial chamber to instruct the expert, if they still have the handwritten notes available, to bring along during the testimony. The co-prosecutors are of the view that those handwritten notes have some important information, and that may be evidence in assisting the chamber in finding the truth in this case. President, thank you.
Can I just ask clarification? I just saw this only now. Is the prosecution saying, first of all, that these interviews were a basis or sources for the dissertation? That's my first question. Or is it just mentioned somewhere?
To respond to your question, Your Honor, we are not sure whether the interviews are important for the writing of the thesis of the expert. However, the book, that is E445.1.1, in English, that is 01335031, the author, which is the expert, spoke about an interview that the expert conducted with the king, Norodom Sihanouk, and with Ieng Sari. And the expert has the handwritten notes of the two interviews, and for that reason I believe the handwritten notes contain some information, and that we may ask the expert during the testimony.
Again, you're claiming this is a source of an admitted document. I understood that correctly, the handwritten notes. My second question, the expert is already in the country. Let's for a moment assume the handwritten notes are here. What's the idea? To show it to all the parties with a view to admit it, or for the expert to be able to ask questions, or the expert is tomorrow, scheduled for tomorrow?
We are in the process of preparing detailed questions for the expert, and in the meanwhile we would appreciate if the expert would bring along the handwritten notes, so that we may ask a question to the expert in terms of the interview that the expert conducted with Norodom Sihanouk and Ieng Sari.
The idea is to assist the expert's memory, in case this is necessary, when it comes to the contents of interviews that are mentioned in one of his publications, which we have already admitted. Is this the reason for the request?
Yes, it is a part of the way to assist the expert throughout the process of questioning. Maybe some questions may arise in relation to those notes. President, what about other parties? Do you have any response to this request by the co-prosecutor? Good afternoon, Mr. President. The lead co-lawyers relied on the wisdom of the bench. Thank you. President, thank you. And what about the defense teams? Do you wish to make any observation in regard to the co-prosecutor's request?
Yes, I do, Mr. President. I'm not sure if I follow the request in the sense, why is this request coming now? Because the dissertation is, if I speak by heart, written and defended, I believe, in 1985 and 1986. His book, I'm not sure, I have to review it, but in his book that is from 1999, he also refers to his interviews with Ieng Sary and Sihanouk. So his book is further developing all kinds of points made in his dissertation. So if it were the other way around, then I could see some sense in it. But asking now for the notes is way too late, because those notes of the interviews were also, I'm quite sure, but I have to double check it, referred to in his book. So what's new, what's very interesting in his book are his notes that he took from the Soviet archives. That is new. But his interview with Ieng Sary and late King Father in his dissertation are also referred to in his 1999 book. So the request doesn't make any sense.
Not if it is a preparation for an 87.4 request. That's why I tried to ask. If it is only to kind of ensure that the expert remembers details of interviews the prosecution wants to discuss it, it's a bit of a different issue. But that's what I tried to clarify. You are on record.
For the time being, Mr. President, I can only wait for the expert to arrive. We cannot ask for documents whereas the expert is already in the country. We are being told that asking the expert to provide the documents, and we do not know whether they will be useful for the manifestation of the truth. I think we can do what we did in the past. If, as part of the prosecution's line of questions, if we find that it is necessary to have supplementary notes in relation to the expert's testimony, we can make that request at the time. I will reserve my remarks for the time being. It appears to be rather premature to make that request at this point in time.
Mr. President, if you allow me, we have now found the relevant English ERN of Morris's book of 1999, E3/7338 at English ERN 01001-662. He mentions his interview with King Father. So pretending that's something new is without any basis.
President, thank you parties for the observation, and the Chamber will use it as a basis for our ruling, which will be issued in due course. Defense Counsel, you may resume your questioning.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do hope that these additional 15 or 20 minutes will be added to our time. Mr. Witness, before the break, you mentioned the person who told you about Tavan, and you called him Sum. Is that the same person that you refer to in your answer 2 in your WRI E3/9580, where you say around March or April 78, my unit chairman, Tassum, was arrested. At that time, I was his deputy. So the Sum who told you about Van preparing the weapons, is that Sum, the one who was arrested?
Yes, that is him.
And did Sum tell you how he knew that Van was arming his forces illegally, hiding the weapons with the mobile forces in order to attack back. How did Sum know Van was doing this?
Regarding this matter, I did not know how he learned about it. That's what he said. That is, he said after Van had been arrested.
And do you recall some details? What did Sum tell you about what Van had done exactly?
To my knowledge, regarding the activities involved, I made mention of that. And the reason for his arrest was that he was accused of colluding with the mobile force and of equipping the mobile force with weapons. And those infiltrated the people there knew that it was an illegal act.
I'm not asking you about what he was accused of. I'm asking you what Sum told you he knew from his own observations what exactly Van had been involved in.
I object to the question because the witness just told us that he didn't know how Sum obtained his information. So to ask him what he knew from his own observations is outside the scope of the witness's knowledge.
Let me rephrase. I'm not sure if I follow, but my question is about the details. What had Van done according to Sum? Did Sum give you, for instance, the location of weapons being hidden? Can you tell us any more details as to what Sum told you Van had done?
I did not know any further detail. He said that Ta Van had been arrested because he illegally equipped the mobile force, and that was the main point that he told me. He didn't say anything much besides this.
Very well. I stay on the same subject and would like to refer you now to what you said to the DC CAM investigators, E3/10666 at English ERN 013-30580 and Khmer 01326355. It's the same subject. It's about divisions preparing their forces to attack. This is what you said, and let me read it to you. After the liberation in 1975, the politics became chaotic. I was very disappointed. There was nothing we could do. According to what I know, some divisions prepared their forces to attack back, but they could not do so. What did you mean, first of all, when you said the politics became chaotic?
regarding this matter, I wanted to say that the politics were confusing over changing direction. And I knew to some extent about the leadership, for example, at the zone level, that is Tucker alias Takon, who told me to be mindful because the situation was not forgiving since the politics are changing. And that is why I said there were always reasons for what happened.
Did that accused speak to you about divisions being prepared, or divisions preparing their forces to attack Pol Pot?
No, he did not. He told me to be vigilant and be mindful due to the changes in politics, and that the situations were fertile, as I could also see that people had been arrested here and there.
A little bit further on that very same page, you say, I don't know where the plan was revealed. And then you say, at first it could have been their open policy. The Northwest Zone also arrested Northwest Zone cadres. What did you mean when you said that to DC Cam?
At the time, the Southwest people did not yet arrive in large number. Some of them were present at some departments or offices, and I observed that Northwest people arrested their own Northwest people, namely in the platoons or in the companies. And after the Northwest had arrested their own people, then the Southwest people started arresting the Northwest people.
I understand. Let me go back then to your answer to DC Cam. When you say, according to what I know, some divisions prepared their forces to attack back, is that something you also knew at the time before the Southwest Zone forces arrived?
After the Southwest group arrived at the Northwest Zone, that is after those senior leaders at the sector zones and some districts had all been arrested in the zone. So I learned all this information later on.
Everybody.
President witness, please repeat your last response. Because the Khmer channel does not carry your voice. Witness, allow me to repeat my last response. At that time, through what I knew and what I saw, that is, after the senior leaders at the zone and sector and district levels had been arrested, including those military commanders at division and regimental levels, I learned of that information, so I learned after those arrests had been made.
I understand, but my question was, did you also know about divisions preparing the forces to attack before the Southwest Zone cadres arrived?
No, I did not.
Let me turn to another, or the same subject, but something in relation to this, Mr. Witness. Mr. President, I'll be referring to E3/4202. That's Sambat's book, ERN English 007575532, Khmer 00858342, and 00849437 in French. Mr. Witness, did you know a person named Chan Zavut, who used to be head of a hospital in the region in Battambang?
No, the name does not sound familiar to me.
Let me read this particular excerpt. Chan Zavut, head of the hospital in his region in Battambang, said in an interview that in one of the meetings he attended in Sedao to overthrow Pol Pot, Runim said secrecy was mandatory because anyone who was found to be part of the plot would surely be killed. Mr. Witness, have you ever heard plans to overthrow Pol Pot and Runim talking at this meeting saying that secrecy was mandatory?
No, I did not hear that.
Did you ever hear things about Runim ordering members of Division 1 or 2 to collect and hide rice, weapons, hammocks, fish, in order to assist the troops who would revolt against the center?
No, I did not hear that or see that.
Did you ever hear anything about Northwest Zone division troops hiding medicine in warehouses?
Regarding this point, I did not hear it. However, there was an accusation that fuel was hidden or fuel was dumped into the river.
Again, you talk about accusations. Do you have any direct information about Division 1 or 2 Division 2 members who were involved in this plot?
No, because I lived separately and far away from them.
Let me tell you why I'm a bit surprised to hear this, Mr. Witness. Mr. President, I will be referring now to E3/1358. That's a FIBIS report English only, ERN 001688287. This is a senior military figure from Thailand talking to the international press. And there is a report from a French agency, AFP, on the 19th of August 1977, saying the following. A senior Thai military figure Friday said Cambodia's leaders suppressed an attempted coup in February this year. General Kriang Sak Chamanan, Deputy Supreme Commander, said the Cambodian Revolutionary Organization Angkar crushed the attempt, which had been planned to coincide with the second anniversary of the Khmer Rouge takeover on April 17, 1965, it says here, but it's 75. Apparently quoting Thai intelligence reports, the general said the Cambodian leadership had foiled the plotters, liquidating many of them and members of their families, end of quote. There are other reports mentioned in Kiernan. So apparently it was quite well known in 1977 that in the northwest a coup d'etat, which was supposed to happen on the 7th of April 77, was crushed. So do you understand my surprise?
I object. Thank you, Mr. President. I object to the question. Counsel is testifying as to the evidence. If he wants to, as he did, read the quote and ask some specific questions, that's fine. If he has specific questions from Kiernan he would like to ask, that's fine. But to testify as to what was well known or what the evidence shows and to ask about why he's surprised isn't possibly information that the witness would be able to give.
I'm not sure why I cannot ask this question. I mean, obviously...
Because it... Counsel, you just asked him... You just asked him if he understood that you were surprised after you had quoted an intelligence report. This is not a factual question. Get down to the facts. As the prosecutor said, if you want to use this as a basis for factual questions, do it. But his assessment of your surprise or the level of your surprise is certainly not what the witness is here for.
I'm not sure if I understand what you're saying, but Mr. Witness, I just read an international news report quoting a Thai general, so that went all over into the world, saying that there was a plot, attempted coup d'etat was supposed to take place at the 17th April of 1977. Have you heard something similar while you were in the Northwest Zone, being member of Division 2?
In that year, I did not hear about that plot. I heard about it only later on, after the military forces there were broken up, and at that point I learned at the cooperatives about such plots that you said earlier about the plan for counterattacks.
Well, let me read the first sentence of the next paragraph, and please be reminded that this is what the general said in August 1977. The putsch was mounted by administrative and military leaders from an extensive swath of territory sweeping northwest, from Kampong Cham, which includes the provinces of Kampong Tom, Siem Reap, and Other Minchi. Refugees, I'll continue reading. Refugees from this area who have recently entered Thailand hinted at the existence of strife in the Khmer Rouge ranks. End of quote. So, Mr. Witness, people like Takleng, Runim, Takyu, they were all arrested about 8 months later. Did you know about this before Runim was arrested? What, can you, let me rephrase, can you recall what you knew before Runim was arrested in relation to attempted coup d'etats or military attacks?
បាទការនឹងខ្ញុំ
At that time, I did not know because I was based at the river. I was in the fishing unit. There were around 300 or 400 people at the fishing unit. And we were not informed about the developing situation. My force in the fishing unit were also the agents deployed by the senior leadership, but we were not informed about such plan.
Very well. Let me follow up with another question. Mr. President, I would like to show the witness a photograph. We wrote an email earlier to the senior legal officer. I would like to show, and with your leave also on the screen, 3 people on photo E3/3481. ERN is P004400815.
President, the chamber grant your request. AV unit officer, please project the photo on the screen.
Mr. Witness, do you know who the person on the right is?
No, I do not know him.
Have you ever heard of a standing committee member or central committee member called Von Vet?
No, I did not hear about his name.
Then I assume that also means that you never heard of Von Vet joining a meeting during which Tanim instructed his division commanders to rebel, correct?
I never attended any meeting.
Have you ever heard of Sao Pim?
For Sao Pham, I heard of his name, but it seems to me that I met him once when he was traveling by speedboat from Sa Le to Tonle Sap. He traveled along with Tanyam. They made visits to bases along Tonle Sap.
Did you ever see Tanim and Sao Pim together?
លហ្នឹងអត់ដឹងថា
At that time, I did not know how many days they spent there, but I saw them traveling together by the boat in Tonle Sap.
And do you know what the reason was that they were traveling together?
Mìnhដឹងដែរ
No, I did not know the reason. At that time, the zone's general staff informed us to prepare boats and ferries, put them in good order, pack them along the riverbank, because the leadership would make visits along the river. And that was what I know.
In your question and answer, your answers A6, E3/9580, you say that Tanim was arrested at the same time as the secretary of the East Zone, Sao Pim. How did you know that?
ខ្ញុំដឹងកាលនោះខ្ញុំដឹងឃើញ
At that time, I saw them traveling together for 1 and 2 days. That was the only time I saw them. And after that, Sao Pim disappeared. And a while later, I also heard that Tanim was also arrested. And that was the scope of the events that I knew.
I understand. Now let me revisit the person that we discussed before the break. I showed you a photo on the screen, and I'm not sure if you recognized the photo. Your duty counsel is kind enough to show you the photo again. Mr. Witness, in your DC Chem statement, E3/666, English ERN 013-30510, and Khmer 01326309, you talk about Ta Tot. You said the question is, what was the name of the leader supervising the V Chap mountain base? His name was Ta Tot. Is the Ta Tot that you refer to in your DC Chem statement maybe the same person as on that photo?
Are you talking about Ta Tuat or Ta Tot?
Ta Tot, I think. Ta Tot.
I think it's preferable if it's pronounced by a Khmer speaker.
Ta Tot. Let me, because of time, do differently. You're talking about a person supervising the V Chap mountain base. Ta Tot. Is the Ta Tot who's supervising the V Chap mountain the same as the person on the photo?
Ta Tot ហ្នឹងគឺ
Ta Tot was Thun father. I suspected that it was Tuat Thut, because when he died, he looked older than the one in this photo. The one in the photo looks younger.
Forget about the name, but the person you say who supervised the V Chap mountain base, is that the same person as the person on the photo?
Tớt.
Tatot. During the war year in the 1970 to 1973, he was supervising a Khmer Rouge base at Baichap Mountain. Tatot supervised the forces based at that mountain, but later on he did not supervise anything because he died a long time ago.
Well, that brings me, Mr. President, to something that I think I should say for the record. We already had some doubts, some substantial doubts as to who the person was that has testified in June 2015 before the Supreme Court chamber. But in the light of the testimony of today's witness and also the previous witness, we are doubting now that the person on the photo is in fact Todt or Ham. But having said that, let me move to my final question. Mr. Witness, in your WRI you speak about the white Khmer, the Khmer Saw. Who are they?
To my knowledge, the Khmer Saw or white Khmer were those who escaped from cooperatives, who tried to flee from the regime into the jungle, and they gather up forces in order to fight back against the 3 years regimes, especially fighting against the Southwest Force, because the Southwest Force was considered as the life and death enemy. Any soldiers from the Southwest Force who were arrested would not be spared, they would be beheaded.
And the people that you refer to as Khmer Saw, white Khmer, are not the same as Division 1 or 2 soldiers. Is that correct?
I object to the question. First of all, I believe it's leading, and second of all, I'm not sure if that's what he just testified to. So I would just ask counsel ask a more open question in regards to the soldiers that the witness says formed part of the Khmer Saw movement.
I'll be happy to rephrase. Mr. Witness, you yourself belong to Division 2. Did soldiers belonging to Division 2 or soldiers belonging to Division 1 belong to the white Khmer? Were they themselves considered white Khmer? Or was it only the people who left the mobile brigades?
To my knowledge, at that time, the Khmer Saw were created. In each group consisted of around between 4 and 10 men. The force came from people who left the 18 April people group, and some also came from the division of the military.
Unfortunately, my very last question, Mr. Witness, that is a question that is about the structure of Division 1 and 2. you talked about your commanders, Kleng and Ren, but I believe you also said you knew the Division 1 commander, Chorn. Is that correct?
President, I would like to read in Khmer. The commander of Division 1, his name is Chon.
Is it correct that you said you knew him?
Just a question for clarification. Could we have a citation for his position as commander of Division 1?
Yes, it's that same organogram, E3/1170 that I discussed earlier. And in Division 1, you can read 3 names, and the third name is Chon.
And it identifies him as the member.
A member of the Division 1 committee. Yeah. So, Mr. Witness, is it correct that you knew him?
Chuan, I knew that person clearly, but he was not the commander of the division. Previously, he was chief of the regiment, and then the military general staff may have assigned him to the division.
I understand. Was this Chorn on the same level as Ren from Division 2?
No, he was below Ren.
Okay, in terms of ranks, could you describe Chorn and Ren respectively?
At that time, they did not talk about rank. They simply talked about the regiment or the division, but they did not talk about the specific rank in the military.
No, maybe it's my mispronunciation again, but you said earlier that Ren is your commander, the division is a Division 2 commander. My question is, can you tell us the respective ranks in the hierarchy, or the positions in the hierarchy of Chorn and Ren?
Talking about the hierarchical ranks in the military, it's unclear to me, and I cannot recall it well about his military ranks within the regiment and the division.
And my very final question, did you ever see Chorn and Ren together, or did you ever see Chorn or Ren in the company of Vine?
They did not meet Tawany much, but the Chun and the Rain, they met each other often, especially at the division's meetings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness. Thank you, Mr. President.
President, thank you. Now the chamber gives the floor to the co-prosecution to put questions to the witness. And the chamber will continue the hearing until 4:10.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Good afternoon, Counsel. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. My name is Andrew Boyle. I'm going to be asking you some questions on behalf of the co-prosecutors this afternoon and then tomorrow morning as well. Can you tell the court if you had any formal education as a child?
When I was young, I did not spend much time in the education system. I spent only a brief time in the pagoda school. I spent about half a year in the studying, and unfortunately, our country faced chaos. So I fled into the forest and lived in the forest until 1975. And only in that year that I came back to the villages.
So how many total years of education did you have as a child?
I spent 2 years and a half.
And when did you stop studying?
I stopped studying in 1965.
You told the court earlier that you joined the Khmer Rouge movement in 1970. What did you do between 1965 and 1970?
From 1965 to 1970, I did rice farming at my home village.
And when did you first become aware of members of the Khmer Rouge revolutionary movement being in your area?
I knew about the Khmer Rouge revolution in the area. I learned about it in 1968.
When you first joined the movement, were you acting as a soldier fighting against the Lon Nol forces?
At that time, I joined the revolution of the Khmer Rouge in 1970, and yes, I engaged in fighting against the Lon Nol soldiers.
And do I understand from your earlier testimony that around 1973 you stopped being a soldier and joined an economics or logistics unit? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. In 1973, I quit the army.
And was it at that point that you joined an economics, what was called an economics unit based at Vei Chab Mountain.
បាទមិនមែនទេ
No. When I joined the logistic and economic section, I was not at Vai Chap because I had already left Vai Chap Mountain years ago. I was at Vai Chap between 1970 and 1971.
And where were you based when you joined the economics unit?
When I joined the logistic and economic section of the military zone, it was in sector 2.
And when you first joined the economics unit, what was your position? Did you have a title within the economics unit?
I held the position that was equal to the battalion. And I was in charge of transporting food, ammunitions, weapons to soldiers fighting at the front line.
Were you ever attached to zone forces at any point prior to 1975?
Before 1975, I was under the Northwest Zone Force.
I'd like to read you a quote from your DC CAM statement to see if it is accurate with what you just told us. It's E310 666, English ERN 01330525-26, Khmer 013-263-19. You're asked, question, in 1971 and 1972, were you promoted to Sector 2 yet? Answer, I was. Question, in what year were you promoted to Zone Soldier? Answer, it was in 1973, late 1972, and early 1973. I went to live in the zone with the Zone Army. Close quote. Is that accurate?
Let me give my answer. Initially, there was not a division force yet. It was simply a zone force. And in that zone force, the structure was divided into the logistic and economics, the transportation unit. And after I left the army, I joined that section, and that section was still under the supervision of the zone.
Now, talking about the period after April 17th, 1975, what position did you hold at that point?
Talking about the period after 1975, I was still working in the economic section. I was in charge of controlling the food and the weapons and ammunition warehouse. And later on, I joined the fishing unit.
Did you hold the title of Deputy Chief of Economics for Division 2? Were you promoted to that title in 1975?
Yes, I was the deputy chief in charge of the military economics.
And was the chief in charge of military economics, that is your superior, was that the TASOM that you referenced earlier?
No, not some, but some.
Apologize for my mispronunciation. You just mentioned that you were transferred to the fishing unit at some point. Can you tell us when it was that you were transferred to the fishing unit?
I was transferred to the fishing unit in 1976.
And what was your job as a member of the fishing unit? Did you still hold the position of Deputy Chief of Economics?
Yes, I still maintained that position as the deputy chief.
And can you tell the court what the fishing unit did?
To my recollection, at that time, the fishing unit was responsible for finding fish to make fermented fish in order to supply them to the soldiers in Division 1 and Division 2 of the zone of the military zone.
So was that fish that was caught by your unit only for the soldiers, or was it also distributed to the members of the communities in the Northwest Zone?
No, the fish were not distributed to the civilians. They were only distributed to the soldiers of the zone. As for the civilians, they were supplied fish by the other fishing units that were supervised at the level of communes and districts. President, thank you. Before the adjournment of the session, the Chamber would like to inform parties that the Chamber has already taken actions regarding the request by the co-prosecution who requested at 1 o'clock through the legal officers that liaison with the court legal officer regarding the request for the expert to bring along the document to this courtroom when he come to testify, if he still possesses that document. It is now convenient time for the adjournment. The Chamber will resume its hearing tomorrow from 9 a.m. The hearing tomorrow, the Chamber will conclude the hearing of the witness to TCW 1037, and we will hear the testimony of expert to TCE 98. Thank you. Mr. Witness, the hearing of your testimony as a witness has not yet concluded. Therefore, you are invited to come back tomorrow. Mr. Moonsawan, the duty counsel, you are also invited to come back tomorrow. Court officer, in collaboration with Visu, please make necessary transport arrangement to send the witness to where he is staying and invite him back to the courtroom tomorrow at 9 a.m. Security personnel are instructed to bring Khieu Sampon and Nuon Chie back to the detention facility and have them returned to the courtroom tomorrow morning before 9 a.m. The court is now adjourned.